Peace, y'all. What's up, fam? It's your boy Luck, man. I'm tapped back in, just trying to figure out, where we going in this rat race, man. So we got the Aboriginal movement, and what we got to understand is never, ever mistake a movement for progress. You understand what I'm saying? So we got the Aboriginal movement failing to make any progress in the 8 years that they have been online. So around 2014-ish, 2015-ish, they began to spring up in the Facebook message boards or the forums, the chats around on the Moorish Babel websites, the Weebly sites of the Moors. And, on these forum sites, these Moorish 4chan chat rooms, abos were created. So they are a combination of Hebrews, flat earthers, and Moors. Okay, so we put all them in one bucket. They was talking to each other for long enough. They decided, hey, we need to click up, and that's why we have this pan pseudo alliance. So they call themselves Aboriginal, right? But they are actually a pan pseudo alliance. You know what I mean? Sort of like the Blood Alliance, how the Pyrus and the Browns and all that. It's just like that, man. So they came together. You know what I'm saying? And their biggest enemy is the so-called Pan-African. Whatever a Pan-African is, whatever black nationalism is, whatever black patriotism is, whatever whatever any of that whole sector is, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of different space. The pro-black space, they are against everything pro-black. Okay. So we're gonna hear a lot of talking points. We're gonna go into Appleville today. We're gonna go to two different blocks on Appleville. We're gonna pull up the HOK block again, and we're gonna tap in with FPG Top Cats. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna tap in with FPG, and we're also gonna tap in with CRG. You see what I'm saying? So we're gonna tap in with Cross Reference Gang, and we're gonna tap in with False Premise Gang. So without further ado, I'm gonna give you a little snippet. Let's see what the false premise hollering about, right? So what we have is these people lack understanding of DNA and history, right? And they believe that everything came from WikiLeaks, right? This is a real thing. I'm gonna go find a quote. One of the next videos you're gonna see, you're gonna see Aboriginals having a conversation about WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and how he's one of the main reasons that the information about Aboriginals is out there, right? This is groundbreaking research that Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, and Hillary Clinton exposed. You see what I'm saying? When they exposed Hillary Clinton, the Abo movement was born. This all the same time frame. I'm giving y'all a good understanding of this, right? So, these guys, they say a lot of stuff, man, all over the place. So Ali Muhammad, he actually was saying that there was evidence, okay, and I'm gonna go to a clip real quick, but he speaks about evidence of Africans and natives interacting pre-Columbian, right? So he says that they interacted pre-Columbian and post-Columbian, and he's trying to. I call him Chief Muddy Waters, right? That's Chief Muddy Waters. He's trying to muddy the waters, but he don't know that he need to retire, right? He one of these guys. He was a veteran that was putting up numbers, and now he's in his 17th, 18th year in the league, and he's still trying to start. He don't realize he's a role player. You see what I'm saying? He don't know he's a spot up shooter, and we need him to go get some rebounds. He out there trying to score 50, right? He out there trying to score 50, y'all. So he said, he just making it worse for y'all, right? So he said that the DNA will prove the reason why there's a connection between the Africans from here and the Africans over there is that we're not really Africans. We're natives, but we've interacted with both populations. This is what these guys say. So they say that we've interacted with both populations, and then they turn around and say the DNA is not traced from ancestry in the ground. This is what these guys turn around and say. So I'm gonna give them a couple shots to get their shit off, and we're gonna go in. Oh, hold on, false premise. We're gonna let you rock out. So this is the FPG
Ancient trade routes from here
underboss.
that they
Okay,
had basically.
it's the capo of the FPG. You understand me? False premise gang. Listen to this guy. All right. Hold up now. So you listen. Okay, so pay attention now. So they're trying to talk about a Pacific slave trade compared to
1500s,
the
that was a slave trade that
African
was.
slave trade and all of that, right? But what these guys fail to realize is there's evidence of the Pacific slave trade, and the way that there's evidence of this Pacific slave trade is DNA. They're able to trace the people who came over from the Pacific slave trade based on the DNA. Okay, I'm gonna keep going.
Was just to illustrate the fact that when you talk about the African slave trade, you're not looking at the slave trade in its totality because you had two other slave trades playing at the same time, and we haven't
Them
even got to the
Jacobites.
European slave
They go
trade
that Morris
and what
Bible.
happened to them Jacobites yet. So
Correct. I
now
was
you
gonna
play.
add that. And
Now
another
you
one, the
playing.
Pacific, OG. The
See,
Pacific.
that's your coolie slave trade.
Well, before the
That's your,
coolie slave trade, we'll go to the Spanish. They
yeah,
ran the slave trade out of the Philippines.
yeah.
They ran, and then if we go back into the 1500s, there was a slave trade that was ran out of Siberia, coming into Russia, Alaska, Hawaii, Kodak Island, up into Canada as well, with these people coming over. 1538 Filipinos came to Morro Bay in California, and so and then so we have those Mongoloid, or what today is Native American, happened at the same time that this said transatlantic slave trade. So correct, OG, and like you said, of course, the European slave trade with the Irish, the Scottish,
That's
the
right.
British, so on and
Well,
so forth.
if we gonna have a discussion about the slave trade and what happened over here on this side of the world, then we have to talk about the slave trade in totality. Now,
Go.
you just showed up book, your homeboy did, young man, uh, talking about the Atlantic slave trade and all these routes and stuff coming across that Atlantic Ocean into North America. Didn't say nothing about much about South America, but into North America, that's where we at. But that map didn't show one line coming off that Pacific Ocean, did it? Now, one thing I know for damn sure is them 20 and odd Negroes, because they didn't call them Africans, them 20 and odd Negroes were taken from the Spanish and they was on a ship called the San Juan Batista.
Mm-hmm.
The San Juan Batista was built in the Philippines. And it came over to this side of the world. But the trick to the San Juan Batista is it never went to Africa.
Not at all.
Terror.
Veracruz
So
was the destination.
Terror.
how would they have Africans
Terror.
on that
So
boat?
they do so
You
much.
see that tie
Now,
back to
I'm gonna
what
refer
we
y'all to Not a Coincidence's channel. Shout out to my bro, Not a Coincidence. He actually touched on the San Juan Batista, the 20 so odd Africans, and the whole Veracruz situation. And he actually exposed that top cats don't know what he talking about. They always talk about the San Juan Batista and the 20 some odd Africans, but they don't talk about the ship that it hijacked and where that ship came from, right? Because they don't want you to know that the British hijacked that Portuguese boat, and the Portuguese was coming off the coast of West Africa. They don't want you to understand that concept. They don't rock like that, right? They cherry pick artists, right? So I just want to give them a quick take. I'm not finna even play with that, right? We're not even gonna play with that. Because this is what these guys do. They make outlandish claims and they keep running in circles, and then you can never stick with one claim, right? So we staying here, we sticking with this, right? He talking about Manila Galleon and all this crazy shit, right? So what we do is the Manila Galleon, right? This is how this works. when people talk about the Pacific slave trade and the equal numbers and all of this type of stuff, this don't make no sense to a person who studies history. Okay. So link is gonna be in the description. So name of this article is called "The Genetic Legacy of the Manila Galleon Trade in Mexico." Okay. So this is the genetic legacy, right? So this is how we're able to determine the effects of this trade, right? The transportation of people to the landmass and back and forth. You're able to tell where and when they came from when you are triangulating these DNA markers. So a quick synopsis of this is the population of Mexico has considerable genetic substructures due to its pre-Columbian diversity and due to its genetic admixture post-Columbian, right? So we understand pre-Columbian and post-Columbian, okay? We've identified the predominant origins within Southeast Asia, specifically Western Indonesians and non-Negritos, and we date the arrival in Mexico to approximately 13 generations ago, 1620. This is the Manila Galleon evidence, right? The genetic legacy of the 17th century trade between colonial Spanish Philippines and the Pacific ports of Acapulco. Indeed, when Mexico has observed the highest levels of the trade, the trans-Pacific ancestry. Okay, so pay attention. Within Mexico, we observe the highest level of this trans-Pacific ancestry in Acapulco, right? The highest levels, meaning the most concentrated. This colonial Spanish trade, okay, appears in historical records, but its legacy has been largely ignored. Identities and stories were suppressed due to slavery. Talking about the Indios, right? This is their talking points. This is what they do, y'all. Population genetics studies have shed light on past historical evidence, historical events, and demographic dynamics that in turn associate with cultural influences. Before European contact, the territory of modern-day Mexico was occupied by indigenous peoples who arrived via one or more founding populations that crossed from Asia to America over what is now the Bering Strait approximately 20,000 years ago. Soon after European contact in the 16th century, the region experienced extensive intercontinental mixture. Europeans, sub-Saharan Africans admixed with local groups. For example, in mining groups, Guanajuato, around the 17th century, admixture began to increase by the independence of Mexico, and in the 19th century, admixed citizens accounted for up to 40% of the population. So in the 1800s, mestizo, whatever you want to call them, was already 40% of the population. Okay, they know when Asians got here. They know who is an Asian. They know who has Asian ancestry. They know who's mixed native and more recent Asian. They know who's mixed Asian and African, bro. So listen, this is from the census directly. The census estimated in 1646 the population of 1.7 million, okay, in New Spain, with 74% being Native American. In 1646, 74% of the population of natives, of Spain, of New Spain, which is Mexico, California, parts of modern day Texas, and that New Spain, they had 74% Native Americans on the census. Only 2% African and 22% mixed. Okay? Okay? Asians arrived first in the Manila Galleon 1556 to 1815. You want to know why they know this? Because of documents and genetics. The genetics back up the documentation. And watch something here, because we're finna show how the genetics can also back up oral tradition. Just wait on it. Okay? So some Asian individuals traveled freely to Mexico, but others were slaves from Manila, where a third of the population was enslaved indigenous Southeast Asian groups. The main New World disembark point of these individuals was southern Mexico, coast of Acapulco. This Asian ancestral contribution to the Mexican population has been overlooked, which have focused on tripartite admixtures rather than adding in the Asians. They're focused on native mixed with European and native mixed with African. So when you factor in the native mixed with the Asians, it's less than like 4 or 5% of the population, bro. So when you go beyond the three-way admixture model for Mexico and East Asian ancestry, you're dealing with genome-wide ancestry portions, and you're understanding the reference populations from East Asia and ancient Native Americans, which are also native East Asians from way, way back. So you have to understand that's why they're able to tell when this person came over versus when this person's been here, because they try to muddy the waters like they're all Asian. So how can you know a Filipino came over to Mexico and he's not Mexican? You could know because his genetic markers are going to tell you he showed up in Mexico in the 15, 16, and 1700s. That's how you going to know. Okay? So I'm going to leave this article in the description because you need to know this. This is consistent with the low, okay, right here. Admixture clusters at 5 equals K clusters distinguish the broad continental components, sub-Saharan, European, Native, East Asian, and Melanesian. This is consistent with the lowest cross-validation obtained at K equals 5, where the 5 continental references differentiate. Higher K values show substrate within continental clusters, mostly among native populations. That's what I just explained. That's how they're able to tell the native from the Southeast Asian from off of the clusters, okay? Cluster membership proportions for admixed Mexicans consist mainly of native and Europeans. So when I got my DNA test and you want to know, like if this is from your mother's line or your father's line, the DNA clusters together. So when it clusters together, you're able to tell, like you can get them to, you can get them to have you a cluster group, and you can tell based off of what the people in your cluster groups ancestral breakdown is. You can tell if you've done enough research what side of the tree they fall on, because they're going to be matches with relatives that you know or you may not know. So that's how this cluster membership works. Okay. So listen, the portion differs within or differed within the Mexican subregions as reported. For instance, European ancestry is more prevalent in the cosmopolitans of northern Mexico, 62.5% on average with a standard deviation of 9.8. Meanwhile, Native Americans show higher portions in southern Mexico, the highest being around 82%. So, and then we got the admixed clusters of sub-Saharan African reaching 33% in individuals from the coast. Okay, in this study, we consider a fourth one, the Asians, to contribute to the admixtures of Mexico. The Asian, East Asian, and Melanesians are estimated at least 5%. Do you see the difference here? We're talking 5%, 33%, 62, 82. Listen to these numbers, bro. The evidence of the slave trade is in the genetics. So when someone says we're not African, and someone says take a fucking DNA test, and your DNA is gonna match you with West Africans, this will dispel that. Because your DNA wouldn't match with them if you didn't have any type of ancestral relation with them. Point blank, right? So, a lot of times people say, my grandmother told me, and because my grandmother told me, and you're not going to rewrite my oral history and my traditions, and I'm going to stand on that, right? So, here we are, fellas. Here we are. Without further ado, what I really wanted to show, like I said, we dispelling this whole DNA myth, this DNA hoax myth, and we starting with the false premise gang. All right. So ancient DNA confirms the origin story of the Swahili people. Now, this is dated March 31st, 2023. Like I said, a lot of people like to discuss oral traditions over genealogy. And they like to even say oral traditions over DNA. So the hierarchy is oral traditions, followed by genealogy, followed by DNA. So if your genealogy cannot corroborate your oral story, they throw the genealogy out, right? They just sticking with the oral stories. And even then, their oral story is a lie, because I had an oral story growing up about Indians, right? On both sides of my family. On my mom's side, they said that my great grandmother was mixed with Indian, right? Cherokee, Santee to be exact. This is what they said. The rest of the family said, no, she not. Ethel May got white in her. That's why she said that. Because she didn't want nobody to know her daddy was white. That's where that came. That's what she said, right? So on the other side of my family, my great grandmother, she identified full-blooded Taino. She come from straight from Puerto Rico. She barely speak English to this day, right? So she was the only one claiming full blood, but she looked like an Indian, right? My mom looked like a Black American. She said her mother had Indian in her. My grandmother, light-skinned woman, not as light as like me, but she's lighter. And she had an oral tradition of having Cherokee in her lineage. Not the oral tradition of her being the true Cherokee. Understand the difference? So the medieval individuals in this coastal East African civilization had almost equal parts African and Asian ancestry. All right. Now let me lay this down before I go all the way in, right? So people off the coast, the Swahili coast, have said for years that they had Persian ancestry, Asian ancestry, right? The Muslim, they kind of used it as like a hierarchical thing. I want to say from my research, a lot of people were associating them with colonizers because they were basically saying like, you know, we are Muslim, we're royal, we're Persian royalty, or we're Islamic royalty because of the marriages of tribes with different tribes from different nations, right? But when you look at these Swahili people, they might not look like they got any West Asian DNA. When you look at them, they look wholly African. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people dismissed it. Like, yo, you want to be a colonizer, you would rather have a Muslim in your DNA than just saying you was converted, right? This is what these people said for years. I remember specifically a couple years ago, somebody made that exact claim. Like, yo, these people would rather say they got Asian ancestry than just say they were colonized by Islam, right? This is what people were saying. And these African people was adamant, like, yo, the oral tradition is we have this Asian ancestry. So let me show you what the DNA did, right? So a new analysis of medieval DNA has revealed that around the turn of the first millennia, Swahili ancestors from Africa and Asia began intermingling and having children, giving rise to a Swahili civilization with multiracial identity, at least among its elites. This discovery matches local stories passed down through generations that were previously dismissed. Again, this discovery matches local story passed down through generations. So if it's there, if what you're saying is true, Ali Muhammad, the DNA will match. You can pull somebody out of the ground that's going to test to a native 14 centuries, and they're going to have African DNA and Asian DNA if that's what you're claiming is the mixture. That's what's going to be shown, family. So this oral tradition was maligned, okay? This is what the guy says. He says it was maligned, y'all. An archaeologist and former direct general for the National Museum of Kenya who was not involved. He said, now with this DNA study, we see there was truth to it. Members of the medieval and early modern Swahili culture lived in towns and villages along the coast of East Africa, shared with the Kiswahili language, and largely practiced the common religion of Islam. New research, shed lights on how the culture formed. To start, the research team made up of 44 scientists, including 17 Africans, worked with locals to excavate cemeteries, along the coast of the Swahili. They gathered DNA samples from 80 people who lived between 1250 and 1800 and compared that DNA with samples from modern-day Swahili people, as well as individuals living in the Middle East, Africa, and other areas of the world. Afterwards, the team ensured the exhumed bodies were replaced in the cemetery plots. They found about half of the DNA from medieval individuals came from African women, while the other half primarily came from Asian men. Of the Asian DNA, about 80 to 90% revealed Persian ancestry, while approximately 10% was linked to India. Now, this is what's crazy, right? So my DNA test, right, came back, and it was very interesting. I had East African, North African, as well as West African, and high percentages, like I want to say 11% Kenyan and like 10% North African. I also had 2.5% West Asian Persian. So that got me to thinking, like, yo, could my Kenyan relative have had Persian in them? What is this? Where is this Kenyan ancestor? Because I'm matching with a 1550 AD Kenyan specimen, okay, and I'm trying to figure out where this ancestor might have pulled up on the shores at. You know what I mean? So, do I have some Swahili ancestry? Maybe, I don't know. This is something that I'm looking into, right? So the traditional Swahili society is a strong matriarchal because mothers were largely African. Medieval children retained their language, while certain outside influences like architecture, fashion were absorbed into predominantly African traditions. Essentially, the paper reveals a timeline of intermarriage that matches a narrative told by the Swahili people. Okay, tells a story of Asian and African ancestry, guys. So in addition to DNA analysis, the team consulted oral traditions. They used systematic surveys and excavated materials such as pottery, beads, house remains, and imported objects. Together, they revealed the complexity of Swahili everyday life and people's cosmopolitan Indian Ocean heritage, guys. So, again, we're not going to let an apple run from this DNA, right? DNA will prove your oral tradition. So, again, anybody who believes that Africans and Indians had contact pre-Columbus, they need to be fighting to get these specimens in the ground examined. Because if you examine the specimens pre-Columbian and it proves what you're saying, you got a leg to stand on, right? But if you testing the people in the ground and they are testing pre-Columbian to be all natives, no African, and post-Columbian you start to see a mixture, then we got to leave it for what it is, right? We got to leave it for what it is. Okay? We got to leave it for what it is. So 18th century, right? 18th century DNA, or I'm sorry, mid 18th century DNA was examined in South Carolina recently, right? I did a video about this, okay? 18th century Africans in South Carolina, right? And they checked into these, I want to say 36 Africans that they were able to pull out of the ground for this DNA project, okay? And for this DNA project, for these 18th century Africans, mid 1700s Africans, they determined that of these 36, only one was of mixed native and African ancestry. Okay, only one. The wide majority were Africans from the continent. I believe there was only like 13 or 15 or something like that were born in America. The rest of them, based on the enamel and the DNA, they were able to tell they were born in Africa. So they were born in Africa, transported to South Carolina, and were buried in the soil in the 1700s. In the 1700s. They did a big project on this. A lot of people who had their DNA in the systems went Ancestry and 23andMe, and I think MyHeritage also participated, and you were able to test your DNA against these genomes. You were able to determine, just similar to what happened with the Maryland individuals when the Maryland furnace workers were tested, and you could show genetic affinity, or however they use the terms for that, right? So ancient autosomal and mitochondrial DNA of colonial African individuals from the Caribbean have indicated that they have predominantly West and West Central African. Okay. African individuals from Caribbean and the Americas have indicated that they have predominantly West and West Centrals. All right. So we've got to understand this. Okay. We got to understand this. Based on the analysis, we estimated between 1700 and 1810, a total of 174,000 recorded individuals were abducted from ports on the upper and lower regions of West Africa, bro. When analyzed by region, almost 1/3 of these individuals came from ports in West Central, okay, with approximately 47% coming from straight from West Africa, right? So, for example, the greatest number of individuals brought into Charleston prior to the 1750s originated from the west coast of Central Africa. Okay, so additionally, a dramatic increase in the number of abducted individuals is also observed between 1801 and 1809, during which time enslavers transported nearly half the total number of individuals brought into Charleston during the entire time. This surge was likely stimulated by an 1803 resolution passed by South Carolina state legislation to resume the importation of enslaved Africans. Okay, so there was a stopping and a continuing, right? So again, guys, don't let the abos run from this. I'm going to put both of these in the description. DNA matching people in the ground with people today, okay? We got admixtures analysis, where we can determine where and who they show close affinity to, all right? And I'm just sorry to let you know, there's only one specimen who had mixed ancestry. They had African and mixed DNA, right? So the ancestors show predominantly African except for Kusa, who displayed approximately 1/3 of their admixed profiles, similar to populations found in America. So 33%, so they were essentially saying that, according to the records, autosomally they would be 33% native. And they had mitochondrial DNA that was native. I think it was A2. All right. So again, what are these abos claiming? What are they actually saying? So I'm going to let Jabari get it in and we're going to fall out, right? So I told the abos, you can't train the algorithm to lie for you, right? Then someone says, I'm in 1387, Virginia, set of grandparents and still going. I don't know how you're in 1387 in Virginia. I don't know how, okay? But this is what people are saying, right? This is why we don't believe the abos. So this same person, so this helped me to gain Aborigine Indigenous recognized status. Who recognized you? What are you talking about? All right? Yes, the Maroons or Moors on Nova Scotia. Come on now. King James was a Moorish king of Scotland. My great-grandmother was a Spanish Moor from Scotland. My grandma grew up in El Barrio with a dog named Chico. What? Listen, bro, I had a dog named Chico too. Now, I am mixed Puerto Rican. But, bro, what the fuck are you talking about, Spanish Moor from Scotland, bro? What are you talking about, gang? Right? What are you talking about? Black Europeans are finding out their indigenous heritage in the UK, recording songs about it. Right? TikTok has a young and old autochthon Aborigine movement bigger than the YouTubers. Some TikTokers are coming in YouTube in addition, right? And then somebody says AI goes into different fonts and rewrites politically correct terms, especially after the Racial Integrity Act. So this person is straight up just saying some dumb shit, right? Saying AI is reworking ancient materials, right? AI is going into scanned PDFs and changing the scanned document. I don't know how you do that, gang. I don't know. That's some bad motherfucking AI, right? I need that jersey. You know what I'm saying? I need that jersey. They say, I'm from Virginia. It was no secret. Look at these guys. Internet and Microsoft Windows in 1987 opened up avenues of research worldwide. before the internet, your neighborhood library was not resourceful. Listen to these guys. The introduction of the Bible. They are religious, but they hate the Bible. All roads lead to Rome. Sonetta admitted on air they are Cherokee. No, he didn't. Why you lying? Okay. So the Mississippi River. I'm gonna let them go, and we're gonna tap in. See what I'm saying? Look at these chat. Look at the chat. Pseudo Babel. I'm a Hebrew and Aboriginal and more. See what I'm saying? You thought I made that shit up, right? Y'all thought I made that up. But he said I'm Hebrew and Aboriginal and more, bro. He putting it all the way out there. All right, so let's see what Barry got for me. I know he ready. Let's see what he got for the elbows. So if y'all were trying to figure out, I was reading comments, right? I was in the comment section reading the comments, okay? Just in case.
In this world, there's still people who are racist. I think the vast majority of Cherokees are not.
The US Congress is getting involved, threatening to withhold funding if other tribes don't reverse course. And it seems to be working. Some they will open a dialogue on the issue, but it is that the federal government is overtly intervening in tribal affairs. However, since a Supreme Court ruling in 2020, the tribe's arguments for excluding
Trying to get y'all some
become
elbow
shakier.
babble in.
Muskogee Creek tribe argued for autonomy from the federal government. Its basis,
an Aboriginal.
Jabari,
I don't get confused by shiny object. I don't.
it's because they think that all the people in the beginning were all melanated, so they must all be black.
Oh.
That's what they believe.
Parents 8, great-great-grandparents 16.
Yep.
So, according to geneticists on this planet, who are all wrong, they will tell us that Native Americans have been here between 12,000 to 30,000 years. They give different reasons why they give different time periods. I'm here to tell you that the problem is most people who are reading from Europeans are intimidated by them and are afraid to challenge them on what they say. So let me give you a challenge. Let's say we had somebody who was a Sioux
Doing too
Indian
much already.
born 900
I wanted to
AD,
just
right?
preface it right there. So,
And
if we had a Sioux
we're going to
Indian
calculate their generations.
from 900 AD, would you genetically match to them? Because I've taken the test, right? Right? I've taken the test. I told y'all my great-grandmother identified as a full-blooded Taino. I did my genealogy. There are some black people in her tree. There are some white people in her tree, right? Never take anything from her. I'm just being honest. When I got my DNA back, I was 6%, a little bit over 6% Native, Mesoamerican. And to be in the Taino group, because I got a Facebook group that I'm in, my family members invited me to. And in order to be in a Taino match, you have to get your DNA kit and you got to match it. They got about 40, I want to say like 45 ancient Taino or archaic Taino, whatever they're using, terminology wise. They have these people, right? And so if you test your gene or you test your DNA to it and you match with them, you know what I mean? They accept you into the group. So I'm actually in the process of getting my Taino card, right? Because I'm 6% Indian. I match at 2 and 3 centimorgans with 40 out of 40 something of them, like damn near all of them I'm matching with at 2 and 3 centimorgans. You go lower to 1 centimorgan, I match with them all, right? 2 and 3, I match with almost all of them. I haven't tried 4, but I'm gonna go back and try 4. So to understand this concept, Aboriginals, if you are who you say you are, Go to the mounds. Get somebody out the mounds and test them, bro. And if that test back is your relative, or you test back IBD related or something like that, then we don't have nothing to say to you, right? Then you can stand alone. I'm trying to get right when he was going in, because Ali said a lot of crazy shit and he wasted a lot of time talking about equations.
That we have to recognize.
Hey,
is,
Jabari, I got
Yeah.
to do this, man. I got to do this, brother.
You got to do what?
I got
This
to
is
do
bad,
this. Give
y'all.
me 1 minute.
Following?
Hey, how you know he didn't
Somebody's
translate it?
following me.
How you know he didn't translate it?
That you're... I'm going to be quiet in a second and you can talk. Once again, I'm showing you that he's not doing this the way that it's supposed to be done. You can't put a source in a paper because someone else cited the source. You have to put a source in the paper because you vetted the source. And if you put a source in the paper that someone else has, you have to say, maybe it's a quote in a book, in another book, you're supposed to say, quoted in. You don't just put the source there like you vetted it. This is poor scholarship.
You're reworking the
This
whole
is
thing.
the person that you're following?
Hey, how you know he didn't
Somebody's
translate it?
following me.
How you know he didn't translate it? There's apps you can translate on.
I'm ready to talk now.
He did not say he translated it, Top Cat. Top Cat, he didn't. Listen to me, Top Cat. Listen to what I'm saying. He didn't say he translated it. I asked him that. He said he put it in there because it was in someone else's work. That's what
Okay,
he
Jabbar, so let me ask you this concerning this topic. Did he write it in French or did he write it in English?
It's written in French.
Put in my
No, did he in his book?
10,000
Did he
Apple
write? Did he?
hours. I can't watch these niggas that long. I'm sporadic now. I catch them in periods, and you know what I mean. I capitalize on that. So, listen, y'all. DNA is not a hoax. Okay, swordfish and top cats ran from the ethnicity white paper conversation, right? So they ran from the ethnicity white paper conversation, and they made claims about ancestry DNA not testing people in the ground. So I want somebody to refute what I'm saying, right? How they not testing people in the ground when they just found out that the Swahili coast, they found out that the Swahili coast was a metropolitan, fam. What are we saying? We saying DNA can't test the bones in the ground for what? What's the purpose, gang? So it's your boy Luck, man. I'm gone. This is somewhere in Aboville, starring False Premise Gang. You know what I'm saying? I'm out of here. Like I said, man, I can't tap into these abos too long. I got another one I'm coming with, Abo Babble Sunday. It's already pre-recorded. I had to sit through about an hour of Abo Babble, y'all. So, like I said, I'm not gonna be doing that too much more often, man. That's a lot of work, sitting through, combing, listening, and putting yourself through a lot of trauma. You know what I mean? A lot of shit just to get a couple clips. When I can just go like this, right? I'm gonna show you something, right? This is another thing that I do with these abos, right? Because being real with you, like I said, bro, I cannot stomach all of that, right? I can't deal with all that shit, bro. So what I do is we use ChatGPT, right? So on ChatGPT, right? Go over here to his live streams, right? So this is the Cross Reference Gang CEO, right? CEO of Cross Reference Gang, right? CRG, right? CRG. So let's see what we got. Aborigines strike back. Let's see Indians not taxed, right? So normally somebody would say, man, what the hell did the abos say? This, and that, right? That's what normally somebody would say. They wanted to watch catch the elbow saying some goofy shit, you know, they will go back and watch this 4-hour, 18-minute clip. Now, rather than wasting time reading that or watching this 4-hour, 18-minute clip, what you can simply do here is, and once we get this load screen, I don't know what's going on. So what we can do here, this motherfucker is bubbling, y'all. What's going on? I'm gonna refresh the page real quick. Okay. So she bubbling, right? And while we waiting on that, like I said, I'm using ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT, and by the way, you can hook it up to the internet, right? You can hook it up to the internet. You can hook it up to the internet, right? And you can have your shit jumping, right? So just for the fuck of it, right? What was the Pacific slave trade effects versus African slave trade on North American populations, right? Because this is what they tried to say, right? They tried to say that we having all this shit misconstrued, right? Right? They say the Pacific slave trade outweighs and all this crazy shit they say, right? So we're gonna let them get to it. And we're gonna show you how ChatGPT ain't nothing. Ain't you can't train ChatGPT to say no dumb shit. I don't care how much you type it a certain way in Google, bro. It ain't going. And now my shit want to spin like this. It's crazy, bro. We was just doing great, right? No budget cuts, nothing like that. Now all of a sudden, it's a problem, right? Now all of a sudden it's a problem. So recap this one again, bro. Right. So like I said, so we come over here. Some of these claims that they make, bro, you can corroborate or you can debunk it immediately, bro. So I got maxai.me. It's a ChatGPT plugin. Actually lets you use Bard, Chat, all the AI, right? All the AI. So what was the Pacific slave trade effects versus the African slave trade on North American populations, right? So it's gonna pull the Gilder Lehrman's Institute historical context. Is gonna pull from episode 6, 15 minutes history. It's gonna pull from Low Country Digitals. It's gonna pull from Middle Passages from Britannica. So just in case a nigga think I'm just going crazy, right? The effects of the Pacific slave trade and the African slave trade on North America were distinct due to the differences in historical context. So peep this. The Pacific slave trade had limited impact. The Pacific slave trade had a relatively limited impact on the North American population compared to the African slave trade. The Pacific slave trade primarily involved the enslavement and transportation of indigenous peoples from the Pacific Islands to work on plantations in places like Hawaii and California. The number of enslaved Pacific Islanders brought to the America was far smaller than the African enslaved population, right? So this one right here says the widespread enslavement of African slave trade involved the forced migration of millions to North America, particularly during the transatlantic slave trade. African slave trade significantly contributed to the growth of African American populations in North America, leading to the formation of a large enslaved and later freed African American community. Okay, African slave trade had a profound cultural and social impact. In summary, slave trade had a limited impact on North American populations, which had a far-reaching demographic, cultural, and social effect, i.e., slave trade. So, again, they don't agree with you, bro. At all. Nothing that you saying is corroborated. AI actually says that it's far, far less. You see what I'm saying? Far less. So you could debunk these guys with AI. It don't take no time at all. AI pull up the sources for you. You know what I mean? I don't want to waste time with these apples. I can put my brain use. I can put my brain power to a different use, right? Rather than wasting it going down a rabbit hole with some abos, right? I don't have to go down a rabbit hole wasting time, wasting hours and hours and hours of my day that I can't get back. I don't have to do that no more. So again, tap in, make sure that you understand that these guys are pure charlatans, bro. Pure charlatans. Okay, pure charlatans. Let me see if my AI working over here now. All right, so we're gonna shut a tab. So we're over here, right? Remember what I said about not wanting to watch these niggas. I don't want to have to dive off the deep end trying to understand what you're talking about. So I want to summarize the video in a single TLDR. I don't want nothing too crazy. Okay. Just give me a summarization. What were the abos talking about? Okay. What were the abos talking about 3 years ago on August 14th? So 3 years ago on August 14th, right? We had the Cross-Reference Gang CEO talking about Dr. Yaffa. Okay, this discussion on a radio show centers around DNA testing and identity. The hosts encourage embracing one's African ancestry and argue against being ashamed of it. They also emphasize the importance of understanding one's ancestry, right? Okay, the transcript discusses portraits and photographs of Native American individuals from the late 1700s to the early 19th. The images challenge claims that these individuals were not indigenous to America, highlighting their strong resemblances to Africans. The speaker refutes accusations of identity theft and emphasizes the historical presence of these indigenous groups, counterclaiming that they are not real Americans. The transcript discusses historical meaning of the term native and its connection to servitude. It explains that in Old English law, a native or a naughty booth referred to someone born into servitude or slavery. The term Native American suggests a condition of servitude rather than true indigenous. So, like I said, bro, you can get a talking point from an abo right here, right? And if you feel like this is too much, I need specifics, right? I need clear, concise. All right. So then we set up bullet points. It's only 2 hours and 46 minutes. So give me 6 bullet points. Okay. Give me the talking points. I don't want to go through this shit. Okay. I don't want to go through it. So at the 32-minute mark, the term Native American has a problematic history as it implies being born into servitude, which is why it's not suitable for us to use. The term Black or African American includes people with origins in Black racial groups. Understanding DNA testing and how it works is crucial. Test results may show small numbers for Native Americans and Southeast Asian DNA, which represents your oldest, most ancient genetic heritage. So listen, I don't have to go into this. I kind of remember this video, right? He was playing somebody else and trying to corroborate what she was saying. DNA testing has focused on 5 tribes considered close to pure blood with little to no European. These tribes included the Prima of Arizona, the Surya of Brazil, and those people I matched to, right? I matched to close genetic affinity. That was the closest populations were the Suri and the Kari. I don't even know how to say it, Karitiana, or those were my closest populations as far as natives is concerned. So again, this is a tool. Research is essential to understanding our ancestry. This is a talking point. You click right here to 221. Okay, unmute it, and you see what they saying.
south the border. We all over the place. Been all over the place. Been moving all over the place. These are all our people all over the place.
Right. So,
Remember?
like I said, guys, this right here
Don't
is a
forget
clear
that. You're forgetting a very
and
key
concise
component
way to get through the
about
Abo
the
talking points without
scattering
watching a
of the
single video,
Americans,
bro.
the scattering of the people.
Without watching a single video. So I'm tapping out. It's been about an hour on the video. I'm gonna fuck with y'all. Stay tuned in, man. These Abos, they are dying on YouTube. They are reemerging on TikTok. They are attacking the youth. They're going at kids, okay? They know that the people above the age of 15, 16, 17, and the people who just got out of college, they can combat this, right? They know that. So they are attacking dropouts, people, no offense, y'all, but most of the people that are on TikTok, they have already succumbed to having a low attention span. A lot of us are being programmed based on social media and the way these algorithms are work. A lot of our attention spans are being programmed smaller and smaller. It went from you being able to want to watch a 30-minute video with all the information in it to now you want a solid 8 minutes to learn everything you need to about your credit repair, and now you want to learn everything you want to know in a TikTok 60-second video, maybe a part 2 video. This is what they're doing. They're slowly but surely pushing your attention span into a microwave, right? That's what they're doing. So I'm not going for it, right? I'm not going, all right? I'm not going on TikTok. I'm not hanging out all day long and watching 30-second videos, because that produces niggas who can't think longer than 30 seconds. And when you watch a debate with somebody who come from TikTok, you see their whole shit is screenshots of Google searches, bro. So that's how I'm giving it up. I will continue to apply pressure. And yeah, bro, I got real shit moving in the real world, bro. I just got approved for some stuff. You know what I mean? I got my LLC going. I got to open up a second LLC. I got something about to get launching here in the next couple of months. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be taking some time away from online. So I need these tools like AI to be able to keep me in tune with Apples, because I'm not gonna be watching every day, bro. I have too much going on. I'm working 2 jobs. I got a business that I'm running, and I'm starting another business. So it's just not gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? I cannot spend as much time as I've been spending. So make sure y'all support, not a coincidence, support Sean P, Mosiah Warrior Clan, Garfield Podcast, Q Butter, Chris Harris MVP. Who else? YK. I fuck with YK the Truth. You know, we don't agree on everything. Absolutely don't agree on everything with anybody, but I stand in solidarity with people who do good work, you know what I mean, and who display similar character traits that I got. You know what I mean? So I fuck with you. If you fuck with me, I'm tapping in with you. You tapping in with me, man. So we out.